DBT has a massive community, and one of the features where this becomes super evident is DBT packages. DBT packages are kind of DBT projects on their own. They contain their own macros, their own tests, their own sources, their own models, but what makes them really interesting is that you can distribute them similar to Python libraries. Some of them, you can create them yourself. Maybe your organization has their own DBT package, or you can actually also go to a DBT hub, which is the website that you see right here, and try to find some interesting packages. In this video, I'm going to first walk you through some of the packages that I think are the most interesting, walk you a little bit on how they work, and then explain to you how exactly to load packages and how to start working with them. So of course, the future packages are probably some of the most interesting ones. DBT utils, it's probably one of the most common ones. What this one actually does is it brings all sorts of SQL logic that you might want to do. Things like deduplicate, pivot, safe divide, get URL parameters. So these are all sorts of things that maybe most of us have done at a certain moment in our own warehouses. Well, let's just say this package DBT utils already comes with all of those functions out of the box. They work for your warehouse, and even nicer, they are compatible across different warehouses. So for example, for this one project, some of you are following this on BigQuery and some of you are following this on DocDB. The differences are not massive, but there are a couple of SQL functions that don't work across both. What I did to make this backward compatible is to actually rewrite them as code using DBT utils, and whenever it gets compiled, it's able to identify which is the database that I care at the moment, if it's BigQuery, DocDB, or something else, and it compiles the coding to something that is specific to that SQL dialect. This one is maintained by DBT Labs, so this one is very safe to use, and you know that of course it's gonna be pretty well maintained. About safety, all of these ones, if they appear here in the hub, DBT has done an extensive process to check that they're correct, that they do exactly what they do, that they're not a liability. But if you look around in GitHub, there are plenty of packages that don't even appear here. So these ones in DBT hub, feel free to use them freely. The ones that you find somewhere in a GitHub project, maybe try to understand what they do first. Some other ones, of course, DBT project evaluator. It checks your DBT project and it gives you a score based on some good practices. Codegen, it's amazing. I've been really looking forward to showing you this one. What this does is it helps you generate YAML files. So instead of actually adding the columns manually, what you can simply do is, for example here, I accidentally opened a Git. You can simply give it the name of a source, like in this case, or name of a whatever, and it automatically generates the YAML file. So no need to ever type the columns manually. Sometimes there are SQL files with hundreds of columns, so having a package like Codegen is really a massive time saver. Now, Codegen also does the opposite. That is, you provided the YAML file, and it automatically allows you to generate the SQL code with the best conventions of CTEs, one CTE for renaming, and all of the column names in the same file. Also with the name that DBT suggests as a best practice for your file. So this one is really amazing when it comes to saving you time. Codegen. Audit helper is really nice when you're refactoring. What this one does is, if you have an older SQL script and a new one that you just refactor it, using this, you're able to make sure that both models are identical, that they have the same number of columns, that they have the same number of rows, that the compare relationships, compare everything. It's really nice when you're refactoring your code. And of course, I could continue going here the whole day. There are quite a lot of packages in here. Some of them are very specific to your warehouse. For example, let's look at Snowflake. There are plenty of Snowflake specific ones, just to give you an example. And most of them, what they are, is they allow you to monitor, so they come preloaded with, for example, models or macros that help you check for your spend, evaluate if you're using the best practices, apply constraints, semantic views, all sorts of things. So I cannot recommend you enough. Check the package hub and see what you find. There are plenty of amazing time savings in here. Probably D6. If you don't know where to start, I definitely recommend you to try DBT Utils Codegen Project Evaluator. Oh, and I almost forgot my favorite that I was kind of teasing. Now, remember in the previous video that I told you that in reality, you don't write that many custom tests in SQL. The reason for that is because this package called DBT Expectations already did most of the heavy lifting for you. So what you see here is that they have already pre-built tests for almost everything you might imagine. Like the row count between, values, spec column values to be null, to have consistent casing, to match a certain regular expression, to be approximately something. Being honest with you, in my time, very, very rarely I go through this list and I found that whatever that I need to test is not somewhere in here, or that my DBTs cannot be rewritten with one of these ones in mind. Let me show you a quick demo on how to use a package. For this time I'm going to use DBT utils, which is the one that expands all of the macros that your warehouse can do. The first thing you need to do is here in your DBT project, create a file called packages.yaml. In here, you need to, well, first of all, write the package flag. Yes, I have it here. So first of all, write packages. Then you need to add the package name. In this case, it's from DBT Labs DBT utils. And I see here that the latest version currently is, according to the documentation, is 1.3.3. So AI was being a bit crazy there. Once you have it there, you're going to need to install it, and you're going to do that by typing dbt deps, like dependencies. Perfect, it installed. And now after you run that command, two things should have happened. The first one is there should be another file here called packages.log, which contains just a simple hash. And there should also be here a directory called dbt packages, and here you can actually see all of the macros that suddenly become available. If you wanted to, you can potentially check the code and see how they work. It's not that you have to, but it's kind of nice that all of the code is available. And now here is an interesting use case. I have here some code that generates a unique trip identifier, like a surrogate key. Now I could potentially leave it like this, but there is a problem, and that is like in BigQuery, this is going to change the syntax a little bit. One nice thing that I can do to make sure that this runs in both BigQuery and actually almost every adapter, or all of them, is to simply rewrite this thing as a macro from the DBT utils package. So the first thing that you need to do is type the double jinja, specify where it comes from. In our case, it's DBT utils. It's indeed generate the surrogate key. Make sure that the fields are identical. Yeah, they are identical. Delete the old code. And it is just as simple as that. It was just a matter of using this package. Now there are plenty of packages, and some of them, the whole appeal is to import macros, kind of like this one. But some of them have some other more interesting things that you can do. So I definitely cannot recommend you enough for you to play with these DBT packages.